Hello and welcome to Yorkshire Voice. I'm Xanthi Palmer.
And I'm Chelsea Ward. Coming up on today's show, it's been 100 years since women won the right to vote. So how important is it to register to vote nowadays? A protest in Leeds took place to counteract the dairy industry, February Dairy, and find out how butterfly saved a tree in Sheffield.
Tuesday night, a fire broke out in an industrial building, forcing over 20 houses to be evacuated. 15 fire engines were called to tackle the blaze at Moulds and Pattons on Kent Pudsey Road. Our reporter, Monica Panarowski, went to find out more.
Firefighters are still investigating the cause of a fire of an industrial building which broke out at around 10 o'clock Tuesday night on Kent Road in Pudsey. On arrival, the large building was already well alight and required over 70 firefighters to tackle the blaze.
A fire has broke out in the premise behind, which is MPM. It was attended initially by appliances from Stanley, Bradford and Leeds, and they eventually reached a height of 15 pumping appliances and aerial appliances, and then it's obviously been ongoing from that point. Cause of the fire is yet to be determined. It'll be investigated by our fire investigation team.
Nobody was injured in the fire, but a large number of residents were evacuated as a precautionary measure and were allowed to return home the following morning.
My husband, he was downstairs and he said that he could smell smoke. We looked out the window and it didn't look that bad at first. Then we saw the fire engines come, and then about an hour later then the flames were getting worse and worse, and that's when the police knocked on his door and told us that we needed to leave.
Some of the households in the LS28 area were left without water for a short period of time due to the large amount that was used by the firefighters. Soon after, Yorkshire Water issued a statement for local residents to be aware that water may be slightly discoloured as a result of the blaze. Yesterday morning, there was still a sign of a small fire from the previous night as firefighters were on site damping down.
And now for the news in brief. Council tax is set to rise with almost all local authorities pushing up the council tax bills in April. Kirklees, Bradford and Calderdale being hit by a 6% rise. Hundreds of buses in Yorkshire are set to go green. It's after the government provided £4.2 million to Yorkshire authorities through the Clean Bus Technology Fund. And a cycle sharing scheme using a phone app which lets people unlock bikes and ride away has been given the green light in Leeds.
Teacher unions and parents are asking the government for extra funding to run schools. If the right amount isn't given, schools will see fewer teachers. Lewis Ortiz reports.
On average, primary schools are losing about £54,000, and if the right amount of funds aren't found, it could mean schools won't be able to afford as many teachers.
If we take an average primary school, £54,000 is the loss of 2 or 3 teachers a year, or quite possibly the loss of teaching assistants. And those are the people that work with often the most vulnerable pupils, and they give them the support to enable them to continue in mainstream education. So the only logical consequence of this is that staff will be lost to the educational system and that class sizes will rise.
Members of the National Education Union and the NUT are urging the government to make a change. If not, we'll see bigger class sizes and fewer teachers. The union says that could potentially jeopardise the education of students.
It's vital that we have small class sizes, high quality teaching assistants. You know, we've gone away from the days when teaching assistants were there just to cut things out and stick things on walls and make cups of tea. Teaching assistants now are a high quality product that's in every single school that are working with these vulnerable children, and they're working to make a real difference. And what's the reward for doing all this? Oh, thanks, but we haven't got as much money now.
Luckily here at Parklands Primary School, they found the support they need to keep their staff. But for many other schools in Yorkshire, they won't be as fortunate.
We all know about the rise in veganism, especially since Veganuary, but how is this affecting the meat and dairy industry? Now, dairy farmers have created February Dairy, which has caused a backlash in the plant-based community. Abby Bates reports.
Following the success of Veganuary, the dairy industry has hit back. Farmers are now creating February Dairy, promoting the dairy lifestyle. and vegans aren't happy about it. They are now making a stand against cows becoming forcibly pregnant and calves being taken away from their mothers.
So we're coming out here now to actually share with the public the truth and the reality of what happens in the dairy industry, and to educate the public and to say this is the truth of what's going on. We then take this back, post it again and share it all over social media to counter the arguments that the dairy industry are saying. We're actually out here to tell people the truth.
Protests are being staged all over the country to counteract the dairy industry's arguments, including this one in Leeds.
And we need to do something about this, and do something about this now, today, for the people, for the planet, and for the most beautiful, innocent victims on this planet, which is the animals.
This group of plant-based activists continue to fight back with campaigns across the country.
This week marks the 100th anniversary since women were initially given the right to vote. Our reporter Tamara Schofield is in Horsforth to see whether this impacts women's voting attitudes.
Good afternoon. I'm here at Lister Hill Baptist Church on Brownbury Avenue in Horsforth. The reason that I'm here is just in 3 months' time you will be able to vote, and this is one of your polling stations. However, you won't be able to vote if you don't register. So get your registrations in now. It's a simple process and it just takes about 5 minutes, and you can now complete it online. I am going to go around Horsforth and talk to some people about how they use their vote and the reasons as to why they do vote.
I vote personally. I think it's very important for women to vote. I've seen the Suffragette movie, so I've seen exactly what they put themselves through to get that vote, so I understand, you know, what they did to get it.
I think women should vote. They earn the right to vote, and it's a responsibility anyway as a citizen that you should vote. And the fact that people have died for this, you know, women should be proud that they've now got it.
I think it's absolutely vital for people to vote, whether they're men, women, children, well, not children. So it's really important, and I think it's something people fought for, and we should actually be doing it. And you can't really complain about society and what's happening if you don't get involved.
As you can see, most of the women in Horsforth are proud to vote. Join me later in the show when I talk to Emma Riley to find out some more about the suffragette movement.
Thanks for that, Tamara. She'll be joined by Emma Riley later on in the show. Thousands of campaigners have tried to stop Sheffield City Council from removing what they say are damaged or diseased trees. However, there's a very unusual protest hiding away in the elm tree in Nether Edge. Xanthi Palmer reports.
Sheffield City Council have signed a 25-year deal with construction company Amy to remove diseased and pavement-disrupting trees in the Nether Edge area of Sheffield. But one particular tree on Chelsea Road has been protected for an extra 3 months due to a white-letter hair streak butterfly living in there. People living in the affected area who've been against the felling have waged a bitter battle to save the trees, and they're determined to protect the butterfly.
Its habitat is in elm trees predominantly, and there are very few elm trees left in the country because of Dutch elm disease. So this particular elm tree is resistant to Dutch elm disease, which is what makes it a really rare specimen. So the butterfly hatches its eggs in this particular tree, and if the tree is chopped down, then the butterflies won't have that habitat anymore.
Local residents are very protective of the butterfly's natural habitat.
Well, those of us that live in Sheffield, of course, are keen on our trees, and it's a lovely part of the environment. So really, we would like to keep the trees as well as any natural things like butterflies that I love butterflies as well.
Campaigners against the tree felling plan to protest Amy next Monday. Last month, a hospice in Rotherham was victimised in a theft. This month, a woman from Rotherham has taken the plunge to raise money for them. Sasha Scales reports.
Last month, Rotherham Hospice fell victim to a heartless theft and was left without the van that they relied on for transport, collections and deliveries. Susan Kershaw, whose dad passed away last year after suffering from an aggressive brain tumour, was cared for and spent his final days at the hospice. Sue felt that she wanted to give something back and took it upon herself to jump 160 foot over the Manchester Quays to raise money for the hospice. Let's see how she got on.
Delicious.
I'm thinking, because I enjoyed it so much, I'm going to book another one. Definitely.
Let's take another look at that jump.
Sue managed to raise £500 for Rotherham Hospice in memory of her father.
A local branch of the National Water Campaign Refill are hoping to get people thinking about recycling this month, promoting Plastic-Free February. Tom Rogers reports.
With 300 million tonnes of plastic produced globally each year, an environmentally minded scheme in Horsforth are attempting to get people to cut it out for February.
Plastic Free February is a really simple and easy way to start reducing how much plastic you use in everyday life. And there's some really simple ideas out there of ways that you can do things. So you could replace your plastic toothbrush with a bamboo toothbrush. You could replace your disposable coffee cup with a reusable coffee cup. You can, instead of buying plastic bottles or drinks bottles regularly, invest in a reusable bottle and use that at refill stations around your community. And it's just a way to encourage people and give people simple ways to change their behaviour and get into the routine, which has been found to be a really effective way to reduce the pollution that we produce.
Refill Horsforth also want to encourage residents to reuse bottles. They're aiming to install water stations around town so you can fill up on the go.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a nice idea, but whether people would stop and have time to do it, I don't know whether that might fit in with a modern lifestyle.
Yeah, I think if it's making it accessible and really easy to use, then people will be more inclined to do it. I think people knowing that they're doing something that's helping out the environment, I think they're going to be more inclined to take part.
They're hoping that the scheme will cut down on plastic waste for the future.
Now we go to Tamara Schofield, who is with Women's Officer Emma Riley.
Hello and welcome joining us here, Emma. So you're the Women's Officer for Leeds Trinity University. Can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yes, I'm the Women's Officer, so I'm in charge of making sure that women are safe at the university, do different campaigns, go and check out the sports facilities, make sure it's all good for them, being active, getting votes in, things like that about women to make sure they're having a good time at university and equal as men.
So you seem very passionate about women. So as you know, this is the 100th year marking that women got the chance to vote initially. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm unbelievable. The women that did this were very brave, very mischievous, very strong, and had so much enthusiasm that it really has brought to what I want to do.
And what exactly do you want to do?
I want to be a teacher, but I also want to be in politics with young people and also women, really interested in that.
Oh, okay. So can you tell us the story about the suffragettes? Because I think it's so exciting.
The suffragettes, they formed in the 1980s, that round area, and even earlier in the 18th century. They were a group of women who didn't believe they were getting the same rights as everyone. So they formed up the suffragettes, which is a big community group, society, and they went out there to do mischievous things, They kind of handcuffed themselves to different poles outside Westminster sometimes. They vandalised buildings, spray painted them, to try and get people's voices, get them to be heard. And they even had hunger strikes.
And how do you think you could persuade more young women to vote?
Well, we've got suffragettes, they've inspired us to do that, but I think it's, it's really fun. It's, you get to tick a piece of paper and put it in the box, or you do it online. So, if you want to keep going, keep that legacy of women power, then that's what you should do. Go out there and really tick it a box.
Yeah. So do you think a lot of young women in university are aware about their voting and their rights?
I don't think they are. No, I think it's very tricky because it changes all the time, women's rights. But it's really simple, if you want equal pay, if you want a really good education, like being at university, if you want housing, right to divorce your husband if you need to, or anything really, then that's what you want to do. And change the country, make them more powerful.
So you seem so enthusiastic about women. I think that's such a good thing in modern day. Do you think that women are equal to men in modern society?
No, I think there's still some more issues. I think we are still pay is an issue, jobs can be quite an issue, but we are slowly getting there. More fights, more representation. Sports could be more on telly for us, so we can watch the girls play. Just everything, just be a bit more better, improve.
Thank you so much for your time, Emma. Back to you in studio.
Now, in just over a week, 3 of West Yorkshire's football teams have sacked their managers. Leeds United have since found a replacement, but neither Halifax or Bradford have yet followed suit. Our reporter, Matt Guy, went down to the Shea Stadium in Halifax to find out the latest in their search for a new man.
Following a bad run of results, FC Halifax Town and manager Billy Heath mutually agreed to part ways last Wednesday. But who is going to take the club forward? Heath led the club to promotion last season but has failed to live up to the fans' expectations of staying away from relegation danger. Since releasing their advert for a new manager, the club have received over 50 applications, but in the meantime, head of scouting Neil Young has been appointed caretaker manager.
I've not put in for the job. No, I think that's down for the chairman and the board. So, if they might have a candidate. Who's outstanding candidate. What I've said is, I'll help as much as I can, while I can. Hopefully, the interim might be a bit longer, because if I'm here a bit longer as the interim manager, that means we're winning football matches or we're doing well in football matches. But as I've said before, the main aim for the football club now is whoever it will it be me as I say, as an interim perspective, or a new manager comes in, we've all got to be working for the same goal.
Young was due to take charge of the team last weekend at home to Dagenham and Redbridge, only for the game to be called off due to a waterlogged pitch. The club's chairman, David Bossamworth, expects Young to be in charge of the team's next match against Wrexham this Saturday. But moving on, Bossamworth said the club need to concentrate on getting the right quality of manager.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember to keep updated with us on Facebook at the Yorkshire Voice, our Twitter at Yorkshire V, and our website yorkshirevoice.com. Tune in the same time next week, where once again we'll bring you the latest from around Yorkshire. Goodbye.